One of my favorite things to do in my free time is get acquainted with a really good book. So today I thought I'd take you with me to one of my favorite places to shop, which is the bookstore. And along the way, I thought I'd explain to you some of my personal taste and preferences in selecting good books to read. I hope you enjoy this. People are always asking me if I prefer fiction or nonfiction. And to be honest, I actually don't have like a hard preference. I do feel like I listen to a lot of podcasts and I hear a lot of like entrepreneurs. They're like, I'm either like only reading fiction or I'm only reading nonfiction, like biographies or history books or something like that. But I actually have found that I can read a fiction book and learn more from a fiction book than I would from like a business biography or a business or self-help book. So I don't really care about fiction or nonfiction, but I do try to do, if I read fiction, then I read nonfiction next. And then I try to go back to fiction after that. So that's typically my approach to fiction or nonfiction. I think the only genre that I don't like is romance. I'm not a romance reader. So, how do I pick the next book I'm going to read? I actually love to just wander around the bookstore. I really could spend like hours in a bookstore. And I have a bad habit of picking books I like based off of the cover. Like I love this book cover. It kind of reminds me of Crazy Rich Asians, which makes sense because it says fans of the White Lotus and Crazy Rich Asians would like this. They got me. Sometimes I pick based off the cover alone. Usually I'm picking based off recommendations that I got from people like on Twitter or on my site. People tell me books that they're reading. I am in a book club. So my book club picks some very interesting books. I think actually we read this book, Big Swiss, which I did not enjoy. So yeah, sometimes they're good books and sometimes I think they're a little strange, but I do like to go off of recommendations. The one thing that I always do though, before I buy a book is I have to look up the book on Goodreads. You can actually follow me on Goodreads. I have to look up the book on Goodreads, and if it has a score below like a 3 stars, it's a no. Is that like, I can't read a book that doesn't have at least 3 stars on Goodreads. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to picking up my next book. As long as the title is interesting and the cover is good, I'm in. I'm in. I'm a pretty harsh critic on Goodreads, so I think I have a good eye for what makes a good book. And to me, the most important thing is like the underlying message has to be a really good one. So I think that's what makes a classic book a classic. Characters, good characters. The characters have to be interesting. They have to be like dynamic. They can't feel flat. And another thing I think makes a good book probably be a twist, some type of plot twist, because you don't want a book that's too predictable. Like I hate when I'm 50 pages in and I know exactly what's going to happen at the end of the book. It like totally ruins it for me. But really, yeah, I think there's an evergreen something that every good book has, that it sticks with you and it like bothers you a little bit after you finish reading it. It's just gotta like give you some like feeling, some emotion when you're reading it. And I love, love, love beautiful vocabulary, gorgeous descriptions, like great words. I actually have a friend who, when we're reading books, we just text each other words that we come across in the books that we're reading, because yeah, I really enjoy great, beautiful descriptions and vocabulary and all of that. So that's what I think makes a good book. Sci-fi. I actually, when I was a kid, my parents never let me read a lot of sci-fi books. So I never got to read like The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, anything like that, because my mom and dad thought it was kind of demonic. So I have never really been much of a sci-fi reader, but I do like to watch sci-fi shows. And because I like to watch them, I have been trying to incorporate a couple more sci-fi books into my bookshelf. For sure, I want to read The Lord of the Rings. It's right behind me. For sure, I do want to read The Lord of the Rings at some point. I also think I'd like to read Star Wars, like the novels that the show, or a movie, the novels that the movie is based on. I've been watching Silo, so I definitely want to watch Silo. And then there's another show on Apple TV called Foundation. I want to read the books that Foundation is based on, because that's like an amazing show. So I think like I'm kind of interested in sci-fi because the shows are so good, but I find it really hard when the dynamics of the world that it's set in get like really crazy and out there, and there's like aliens and space flight only takes like an hour. It's just kind of is hard for me to grasp. So that's why I'm typically not into it, but I'm trying. So comment below some of your favorite sci-fi book series. So let's see, my favorite book is Why It's Sargasso Sea by Jean Rice. I love this book. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I think if I had to pick one, like if I was under a timer and someone said, pick your favorite book, it would definitely be this one. This is, if you've read Jane Eyre, this is supposed to be like a prelude to Jane Eyre, where this author set out to explain and give justice and a voice to the woman in the attic. And I think it's, like I was saying about a good book, it's so well written. The language is beautiful. It's set in the Caribbean, and like her descriptions of the landscape in the Caribbean are so beautiful. The character, the mad woman that she's describing in the attic, she's not just crazy. Like there's a lead up to her becoming crazy, which I really enjoyed. Basically, a man drives her crazy, which is so relatable. Yeah, the end is super satisfying. In a different type of way. She kind of reimagines what happens to the guy who marries Jane Eyre in Jane Eyre. I forget his name. I actually never read Jane Eyre, so but I love the precursor book, so maybe one day I'll get around to it. But for now, I really enjoy, this is one of my favorite books. This is definitely one of the books that's like at the top of my list right now. The brothers Karamazov. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. But after reading Anna Karenina, I'm not sure I'm in the mood for like another really big book, but I definitely want to read this by the end of the year. It's a classic, and I've heard so many great things. I've only read like excerpts of it. Haven't read the whole thing in full, but I'm hoping to read this by the end of the year. I'm a huge fan of Silo. I actually like to argue on Reddit about this show. I'm so ashamed of the number of hours that I've spent lurking on Reddit and arguing with people in the comments about each episode. So if you want to see me, or if you want to argue with me online, then go follow me on Reddit. But I love this show. And on the one hand, I feel like you could read it and watch the show, but since I started watching the show already, I don't want to read the book and spoil it, so I'm waiting until the show is finished before I start picking it up. But I'm really excited. I've heard the books are really good, and I listened to a podcast of Hugh Howey explaining how he wrote them, how he self-published, and I thought it was like so inspirational. So yeah, this is Probably something I won't be reading for the next couple of years, but it's definitely really high on my list of books to read. A person on my site recommended this book, and I do want to read it, but it does sound very depressing. It's about a farmer, a guy who was born to like a poor farming family, and his whole life is basically kind of insignificant and sad, and nothing really great happens to him. So I think it's probably like a reflection on just what it means to live like a underwhelming life. I don't know that that's actually what the person had in mind as far as what they got from it when they recommended it to me. And the premise does look good, but it just seems like it might be a little sad, so I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. But my book club recommended this book, and they all read it without me. No, I'm kidding. I was out of town when they read this book, and after they read it, I saw so many people reading it on like Book Talk or on Twitter a couple of times, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I do want to read it myself, but I have so many other books in the queue right now, so it'll be a little later. But I am really excited to get around to reading this book because I've heard really good things. And then I read this book years ago for my book club, and this is like an amazing book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. Also, I think it's going to be made into a movie or a TV show on Apple TV. So yeah, definitely recommend picking it up. One of my other favorite books was Barbarians at the Gate. And so now I'm into this whole genre of like business, history, finance, culture in New York in the 80s and the 70s, and like all the times when people were just running wild, making billions and billions of dollars and doing what, leverage buyouts or whatever it's called. So yeah, this has definitely been on my wish list for a while. And then I actually was just literally yesterday listening to a podcast where the gentleman was talking about Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It was the Founders Podcast by David Senra. This is the founder of Nike, and I've heard that he was so close to failing and Nike just going bankrupt like multiple times over its history. So I've been wanting to read this because I've heard it's a very exciting book on the business behind Nike. There was one more book over here. I have this book sitting on my bookshelf, and I've been meaning to read it for the 2 years it's been languishing on my shelf. I promise I'm going to get around to it, but this is about the Sackler family that had their name on like every museum and important institution in America, and they're responsible for the opioid crisis, I want to say. So definitely at the top of my list. But yeah, obviously, as you can see, my list just keeps growing longer and longer and longer. That's the problem. I want to say like on my Goodreads, I probably have about over 1,000 books on my want to read list. And at some point I'm going to get to them. But the problem is that people just keep coming out with books. So I never get to read all the books I want to read because more books keep coming out every day. I don't know. It's like, what am I supposed to do if I can't read all the books in the world? I really hate to talk about books I didn't enjoy, but if there are books that I hated that I would recommend never reading, and also that I would judge you for reading, it's The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And actually, let me clarify, okay, because I know people get in their feelings about this book and other books that she's written, and people always feel like, oh, you're just kind of biased against her. I do not like this book for the simple reason that it's, like 800 pages long. And it is the worst writing, the most elementary writing, the most elementary characters. Like everyone is just so flat and one-dimensional. No one is very interesting. And she has just walls of text where it's supposed to be the character speaking, but it's actually just her writing her inner monologue expose on how she feels about politics and capitalism and libertarianism. Yeah, I really hate this book. And funny story, I was reading Anna Karenina, which is also a very large book, a very ambitious book. And the guy at the bar was like, oh, I just finished reading The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And I was like, those two are not even in the same league, dude. So yeah,
Ew.
Totally judging you if you read this book and enjoy it. But I read it myself. So maybe, maybe I shouldn't judge people. I don't know. I haven't read the Everything is Fucked, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a is such a bad book. I absolutely hate it. So this is another book that I greatly disliked. I would actually say, unfortunately, I didn't even finish the book. I think I got maybe 20 pages in, and which I never do, you guys. I got maybe 20 pages in and I threw it away. I don't even think I gave it to Goodwill. I think I literally threw away the book because I was like, no one else should read this and I'm not going to read it myself. I think it's just full of really bad toxic advice for how to deal with difficult people in your life. And I'm not sure why so many people enjoyed it, but it actually might explain why so many people lack social skills and conflict resolution skills, because they've been reading his terrible advice and taking it and terrorizing people like you and I. So yeah, do not read this book. Highly do not recommend. So here's the book I actually came for. Lost Lambs by Madeline Cash. My book club picked this book, and apparently it's very interesting. It's about a family where the parents try an open marriage, and they have 3 daughters who knows? Do they approve, not approve? I would imagine they don't approve. So it's a family drama. Very interesting book club pick, like I said. And I have 2 days to read it, so wish me luck. Matches my outfit, right? All right, thank you for watching this video. If you'd like, you can follow me on Goodreads. I'd really appreciate that. Make sure you like and subscribe, and leave a comment below and let me know what books you'd recommend me picking up the next time I'm here at the bookstore.